Welcome back to another episode of D2C Diaries. If you're listening on Spotify, I'd recommend you head straight over to YouTube today because we're doing another in-depth training, building on what Lucas went through from a storytelling perspective a few weeks ago, but this time with a focus on third-party whitelisting and partnership ads, a topic that's gaining a lot of momentum within Meta across our accounts and across the whole D2C ecosystem. It's taking a higher percentage of spend month on month for the brands that we work with. Partnership ads are a great way to ensure that you're reaching new audience, and the session I'm going to go through for the next 30 to 45 minutes is one that we ran with our internal team on best practices, the different types of partnership ads, best-in-class examples, and how you can get started today implementing these approaches into your brand through Q4 to help you grow spend, acquire more customers, and be more profitable. We put out a partnership ad resource a few weeks ago. We'll leave that in the description below. If anyone's got any further requests for future trainings, deep dives, educational videos, please let us know in the comments and like and subscribe. The more people we get, the more feedback we get on these videos, the more it motivates us to put out more content that helps you guys grow your brand. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into the video. So today we're going to be going through unlocking first-time impression ratio and incremental reach through partnership and third-party whitelisting ads. By the end of this session, we hope that you'll know why partnership ads and third-party positioned ads and funnels are working, have a clear overview of the different type of third-party setups that are driving performance on Meta today, and how we can take advantage to drive stronger incrementality and reach net new audiences for your brand. And then towards the end, we've got some really clear action points that we think everybody who's watching this video should take and get started from today to drive performance into Q4. So this is a training session that we did with our team recently. And I wanted to start by just, setting the scene and giving a view of how we've seen the market on Meta shift over the last 12 to 18 months. So we've, as a business, Saw with us, we've been around since 2019. We've seen many different permutations of advertising on Meta and Facebook. When we first started advertising, we were running many different lookalike audiences, super segmented account structure. We then saw iOS 14 and the chaos that brought. And then over the last couple of years, we've seen this move to a creative first approach to targeting. And I think that the 2025 release of Meta Andromeda has really compounded this view that creative is the key variable for performance on Meta. What is Andromeda? Well, Andromeda is Facebook's shift in the way it serves ads to individuals on the platforms that it owns. It's a move from deterministic to probabilistic. What this means simply is a move away from grouping you as an individual with other similar people based on purchase behavior, based on consumption of content, based on the websites you browse. So no longer looking at things like lookalike audiences and interest audiences, which have been gradually sunset over time, and a move towards probabilistic individual level preference. So the ability to review based on signals and its AI context window. So what this brings rise to is this idea that Meta can now support a far greater volume of ads on a weekly and monthly basis, and is much more effective at delivering those ads to individuals that may resonate with them based on their characteristics. So perhaps you watching resonate more with a founder story ad, whereas I may resonate more with a static image ad, or you're at the first touch point with a brand and I'm at the fourth touch point, and it's able to utilize context to better serve the inventory that we provide it. This obviously gives rise to this idea that creative and or creator/identity is the new targeting. So we want to be focusing on this mental model for are we providing the right inputs to this algorithm in order to set us up for success? Success being conversions at your target CPA and the ability to grow spend over time by consistently getting in front of new pools of audience. It also brings rise to the soulmate theory, the idea that there is, in fact, a perfect creative for each user. It's just, can we make that creative for your brand? And as a result of this, we are focusing heavily on supplying the algorithm with a high volume and variety of assets. The key is that we retain quality whilst we're doing this. We audit a number of brands on a monthly basis that are increasing ad output month on month, but CPA is either increasing as they spend more, or they're not able to grow spend without efficiency declining and profitability declining. So quality is key, but volume and variety is what is allowing us to grow spend month on month for brands whilst retaining that. One of the biggest problems we see is declining first time impression ratio as a brand scales. Especially for brands spending multi six figures per month on platform, we see that if they're not tracking and keeping first time impression ratio or incremental reach as a KPI for within their reporting, this will naturally decline over time. So we really want to use this as a KPI for, and it's almost like a leading indicator of future performance. So on the left here, you'll see a incremental reach report that our amazing reps over at Meta provide us on a monthly basis. And the light blue line is previously reached individuals. The turquoisey green line at the top is net new incremental reach on a weekly rolling basis. And then this percentage is the absolute percentage of impressions that were truly incremental for this brand in that period. Obviously, not every previously reached individual is someone who's at the point of being ready to convert. We know that we're going to need to get in front of people 4 to 5 times, often to drive purchase with a variety of different content formats and messaging. And therefore, we're not worried if this isn't 50, 60, 70%, but we need this to be between 10 and 20% on a monthly basis to be confident that we're filling the funnel with audience that is going to convert at a later point. If we're below that benchmark, the first tactic we look at is creative. So messaging, format, angles, creator, and identity diversity. And only after this has been exhausted do we look at non-conversion objectives. And we're seeing third party whitelisting, publisher ads, etc., as being a real hack for quick wins in growing incremental reach across our account portfolio currently ahead of Q4. And over the next few slides, we're going to dive into how the different types of whitelisting, third-party whitelisting, and how to really do this through a best-in-class approach to allow you to continuously unlock this incremental reach and avoid growth slowing down as you scale your brand on Facebook. So I wanted to touch first on why it works. So the reason partnership and third-party ads win under Andromeda and within the context that I've just ran through is because of the engagement and signal engineering that it provides to the algorithm. So we focus a lot on this idea of signals and relevancy. So how are we creating signals for Meta to get an understanding of how relevant an ad is to an audience and further boost delivery to people who are interested in that piece of content and likely to convert? So when we use third-party whitelisting, we often see engagement on the ad, click-through rates grow, and therefore this acts as a signal to Facebook to shift and improve that delivery to people who are most likely to convert through that asset. And it's that kind of mental model that we want to keep central to all of our creative output. Like, how do we create better signals for Meta to deliver to new audiences over time? Obviously, it's also got a really strong authenticity and trust element to it. Creator positioning feels like really authentic and real, whether that's internal, whether that's third party, or whether that's just creators in general. And I think this is something that's going to continue to evolve with the rise of Sora 2 and AI platforms, where content and the cost of content and the volume of content continues to grow over time. Um, it brings another layer to creative diversity. So we see creative diversity almost as a pyramid where you've got angle and message at the bottom. You've got format, vehicle. So whether that's a high production UGC static, and then whether it's a podcast ad, it's a VSL. You can see these building blocks of creative diversity, and we see whitelisting and third party is another variable that acts almost like a multiplier on that. So we can take each one of those building blocks and times that by identities, and you can see how that gives rise to a huge host of new creative ideas, builds more reach and credibility. So the increase in signals, the increase in relevance score creates better match rate through Meta's algorithm, which allows us to get in front of new audiences that we may not have reached before with a message that really resonates them with them on that first touch point. So prior to this is kind of a view of how we see the funnel and how we think about first time impressions. So the before state on the left is an perhaps a brand that's struggling to grow incremental reach over time. And the key thing here is that although we're focusing on Meta here, the impact of growing consistently growing first time impression ratio on platform can be seen across the whole ecosystem. It has a real trickle down effect if we can broaden this top of funnel. We'll drag more new users in. They'll trickle down through Facebook. They'll more users will go through your branded PPC ads, more signups through CRM, and ultimately there'll be a greater volume of individuals converting at the bottom of that funnel if we can consistently increase the first time impression ratio and get in front of new audiences with ads that are relevant to them and that drive conversion. So why now is the time to act? Quite frankly, most advertisers haven't adopted yet. If you go through 10 to 15 of your favorite brands, I'd bet that less than 50% of them are running strong whitelisting third party relationship creative. And I think that presents a real opportunity. Those that maximize first time impression ratio and I guess maximize those signals to Andromeda, create a future power law, early adopters to this mental model of how to get the best out of Facebook today or Meta today will get disproportionate returns. The algorithm learns and you gain more share of voice if you lean heavily into this idea of signal engineering and diversity. And the top 10% of advertisers will capture the majority of impressions. We've seen this with some of our fastest growing brands where we are producing the highest volume of diverse creative. It feels like we're pushing a snowboard down a hill rather than sort of fighting for growth and future conversions. And I think that's the compounding impact of leaning into our Andromeda and leaning into the algorithm. So I wanted to touch on the key ways to execute. So we've got three different types of third party or whitelisting ads in the Meta ecosystem today. First is partnership ads. So this is Meta's new version of branded content and it delivers dynamically to audiences. So you'll have all seen in the ads manager, this partnership ad selector. These are super easy to set up. You can simply search for a creator on the platform and it will directly send them a request to accept that ad delivery and you're away. It's a super simple setup. You can also set up dynamic delivery depending on expected action rate. So these ads will dynamically deliver from either the brand handle, the creator handle, or a combination of both, depending on what Meta's algorithm thinks will drive the best action rate from that audience. And that's, again, another variable of diversity if we're giving that power to Meta to make that decision for us. Cons of this delivery type is that the partner needs to accept the request, which I think is relatively low friction. But the second is that we cannot manually retarget the audience. So although we understand that Meta is likely through Andromeda, not every impression on that ad is going to be net new, and we're probably retargeting some of the people who see that piece of creative initially multiple times with the same asset. We're not able to pull in that creator's Instagram audience, Facebook audience, or any of those elements and dedicate a specific amount of spend to their existing audience or users, etc. And we can see that as a bit of a limitation. So when setting this up, you can see that you get the identities through. So this is neurodiverse and Club Neuro. You can select how you want these to display. If creators maybe are a little bit apprehensive around having the brand associated with them initially, you can limit it to just your brand, or you can, as we like to do, give that ability to Meta to select and deliver based on what it thinks will generate the best return from the users that it's putting this creative in front of to drive better performance. And this is a couple of examples of how that looks on the feed. So you can see this first screenshot at the top is where we're seeing both brands displayed in partnership, and then the second one here is where we're just seeing the brand, it's the third party itself showing that asset and the different ways it can be displayed there. The second format of third party delivery is third party positioning. So this is running ads through a third party identity. You can see one on screen here, which is Amanda ADHD Hacks. And well, this could be ads or any experience. So perhaps that's the full funnel. Maybe it's pre and post click that's run through that identity. But we love this because it builds a lot of trust and credibility when done correctly. So you can see this example on screen is focused on a specific problem and persona. So focus and ADHD. And the asset here is super raw, authentic UGC that comes across as very credible, very education first. And this therefore makes it more of a top of funnel asset than something that's very product focused, that's very direct. And that authenticity and credibility builds signals and resonance with the audience, which helps with further top of funnel delivery through Andromeda. Two key ways we like to think about this internally is through the lens of a persona, so menopausal mums being one, or through the lens of a credible positioning or credible third parties, so styling tips, or as I've mentioned here, My Subscription Addiction, which is a publisher that offers third party positioned ads and funnels on behalf of brands. Two key pros is that it's highly trustworthy and relatable, as I've mentioned, when done correctly. If you can get the execution right, it really resonates with net new audiences and can drive amazing unlocks in performance. It's free if done internally, so you can set these pages up yourself. You don't need to work with a third party. You can make a page, you can make a site very quickly with AI these days, and you can put that together in a way that allows you to then create assets from a completely different positioning and send that traffic either to your site or through a funnel. Cons are it requires the identity creating if you are going down that route. Obviously, that takes time and resource. If you aren't using internal resource, it can be publishing externally, like My Subscription Addiction can be expensive. I'd encourage everybody watching to go and have a look at their ad library because it provides great reference points if you are going to do it internally on how to do creative well when doing it through a third party, how to do funnels well when doing it through a third party. And obviously, if you are going to do this internally, there's a community management requirement and expectation, and that needs to be considered. You're going to need to manage comments manage website engagement that lives in a separate ecosystem, and you just need to be on top of that from launch. So we're seeing this done obviously through the example I shared previously, but also at all different stages of the funnel. So this example on screen here is Exeter that's doing it through a comparison to a competitor, and this is going more after that sort of solution aware stage or product aware stage. And I think this is a great example of more of an advertorial execution. An advertorial positioning provides a hugely diverse range of options. So this doesn't always have to be very transactional. You can do it through the lens of answering a question, educating an audience who have a specific problem, going after a previous failed solution, going after a really common objection, going after comparisons to other competitors' products. And when done correctly and paired with the right creative, this can do an amazing job of education and warming audience up and bringing new people into a funnel without directing them straight to a product page. Pet Lab Co is an example of someone who's been doing this really well for years. And this advertorial setup, when paired with the right native, authentic top of funnel creative, can be super powerful on Meta and super powerful on Google PPC. We see this being used really effectively and we're using this really effectively across a number of brands to target long tail search terms. So maybe we're targeting someone's search like top 5 memory supplements or best memory supplements, and we're positioning or brands are positioning an article like this, and then their product will be top, obviously, and the most recommended of the 5 here. And that does a really effective job of building that congruency and alignment with the search term that the individuals looked for initially, and therefore driving better conversion rates. Perfect. And then the final example I wanted to touch on, which is almost the traditional way of approaching this, is the old school whitelisting in Meta. So this is running ads through an identity that isn't yours. Think big celebrities and big influencers. This example on the right is Heights running from Ben Shepherd. And you can see the setup here. You have to go and get access to their assets. It's much more complex than the newly formed partnership ads hub and ecosystem from Meta. And they're also planning to sunset this setup in early 2026. And from speaking to our reps, we know that the signals provided to Andromeda when running through this setup aren't as great or as impactful as when using the partnership ads. That being said, the ability to manually retarget audiences can be quite beneficial if you're working with these big celebrities or people who have a large following of engaged users that you maybe want to lean into with a specific spend and specific allocated budget to prime that ad with a lot of engagement, etc., etc. So we do think they can still be used well when used intentionally, but they are being sunset into 2026. So we want to be focusing most of our attention on partnership ads. So now I want to go through a few examples of what great looks like for partnership and third-party ads currently. And I wanted to start with third-party positioning. This example on screen from Kitchen Critic is a really strong example of how to execute this third-party positioning throughout the funnel, throughout the customer journey. And I think that congruency and consistency is something that we see as like a best-in-class approach. So you can see here that this brand is working with Kitchen Critic, which represents a trustworthy name in this niche or ecosystem of dog food. The positioning of this ad as comparison, so we bought and served both brands, guess which was ours and the pup's favorite, is comparable and super authentic. And you can see this is kind of, I really like this hack at the bottom where they've kind of redacted the name here in the headline to double down on that feeling of not being affiliated to any brand on the front end, and again build that authenticity, that credibility that then allows you to leverage that further through the customer journey. You can then see that when looking at the funnel, they maintain this identity and consistency throughout the journey. So we're retaining the positioning, we're maintaining that unbiased, comparable angle in the headline. And you can see how that, if you're an individual that's engaged and clicked on that ad, it's continuing that narrative and that consistency on the next step to the customer journey. And then it's pushing to the sales page as a second step, a post-qualification destination of the product page. This is a sales-based landing page. And at this point, if someone's interacted with the ads, someone's gone to the pre-sale page and further educated themselves on the benefits of the product, how it compares to others in the market, and why it is the best for their dog. And it obviously retains even the image consistency here is great. You can see how that builds that trust, that credibility, that conviction in users, and will lead to really strong conversion rate. And this is just a really great example of that approach across the customer journey. Second is partnership ads. So this is taking the example I shared previously and just pulling throughout the funnel. So yeah, you can see that partnership positioning, neurodiversity and Club Neuro. The brand is leveraging authentic UGC comment replies as a hook. So yeah, it feels very native, feels very organic. And then we know from data that this is a bestseller, and I think that is key. We want to be focusing these top of funnel ads and top of funnel these third party ads on products that we're giving that we have data on them having the best chance of success and highest conversion rate. So focusing on a bestseller. This listicle as a second step then doubles down on that positioning from the creator, so retains that similar, well, the same publisher, showcases the benefits of the product and the narrative and the story behind the product. And then that continues to the lower funnel, conversion ready funnel of the product page, where we've got the consistent product journey. And then a final step here, which we love, is the consistency in email and full funnel messaging. So not just the pre-step page, but also the CRM activity, which continues to double down on that persona and continues to double down on that creator's message to the audience that came into contact with the brand through that funnel. And again, you can see that consistency on screen and how that will lead to improved conversion rate with audiences that come through this touch point. And then thirdly, I wanted to touch on the whitelist ads and show a great example of that, which is this Ben Shepherd example from Heights. You can see that the identity there. This asset is done through the lens of storytelling about Ben's experience with the product and how he's gone from a before state to an after state, how he's gone from a position of pain to a position of outcome and benefit with their product. And I think that's again then pulled through to the product page in a way that again retains that congruency and consistency. So strong social proof, use of the same individual as in the first touch point, and a building on that narrative around his journey with the products, the way he's gone from one state to another, and why others should look to do the same. A few of the best in class examples to have a look at in the ad library. I mentioned Pet Lab Co, Space Goods, Trip, Mindful Chef, Heights, IM8, David Beckham's supplement brand. We've done a breakdown of their funnel in a previous podcast episode. Please go back and watch it. You can download the resource there. They're doing a huge amount of authority-based whitelisting using doctors, nutritionalists, experts, which is an amazing approach to this, and something that again builds a huge amount of trust and credibility in a world of increasing inauthentic creative through AI. Percival Clothing and then Vuori are two examples more within the fashion niche that are also worth a look. So take a look through these ad libraries, build a swipe file, and then take them to execute for your brand. So I just wanted to end by going through a few tactics that are other tactics that are really working for us right now. Obviously, I've touched on some best in class approaches to each of those three setups, but firstly, creating third-party pages based on a winning angle or keyword. So I think that menopausal mums example previously is a great reference point for this. If we've found a supplement that and we know that that's our core angle within our winning creative, taking that, making a third-party page and doubling down on that approach to improve resonance and give us another way to increase diversity of delivery. Secondly, and this is a real quick win, is using the founder's profile for founder story ads or any other internal team members or personas. So we're seeing this work for teams. It could be a behind the scenes. It could be an internal authority and an expert. Say you've got a nutritionalist as part of your team. Using their identity and creating almost a creative strategy around that person, separate to the creative strategy around the brand, is a way to continue to diversify delivery over time. And obviously, the founders is a really proven way to start this. Revisiting top performing UGC creators and negotiating partnership ads. So if you've got top performing creators over the last 30 days, go and speak to them, pay them for an initial 30-day whitelisting agreement or partnership ad agreement, test that creative and see how that improves audience delivery. I would bet that it drives better CPM and better first time impression ratio just by doing that as a next step. If you've got an existing seeding program, so say you're seeding products on a monthly basis to X amount of micro, mid-size influencers, have a look through your seeding database, find those who are making the best creative or producing the best assets off the back of that gifting, and approach them to work with them on a paid UGC and whitelisting basis. Creating blog posts and advertorials positioned from the identity we used pre-click is a really good way to build continuity. So I shared a few of those, an example of that in the previous slides. But once we've found a winning asset, we don't want to stop there. We want to look at how do we compound the impact of that by aligning the post-click journey with the message or the identity in that ad to build that resonance, build that congruency, and improve that action rate. Next is ask yourself which larger influencer celebrity opportunities, if you've got the budget, align with my values and product, but may allow us to tap into a new audience segment. So I think these engagements often come with greater cost, but I think working with these larger influencers who have existing audience or a large following or fan base can be a really effective way to really hack incremental reach. Obviously, it comes with greater risk with that cost. Not every relationship works. We've seen that with our brands, so I wouldn't jump straight to this point, but it can be a really effective way to tap into new audience segments. And then finally, doing intentional keyword research on PPC and Google to come up with third-party identity opportunities. Maybe that's based around longer tail searches, problem statements, comparative statements, etc., that we covered on in previous slides. Expecting outcomes from this activity is firstly an increase in engagement rates on your ads. This then should lead to signals to Andromeda to prioritize delivery of those assets to the audience segment that's resonating with the piece of creative or funnel. That increases your ad relevancy scores and your match rate off the back of that, which leads to a greater total addressable audience on an asset level. That in turn drives better first time impression ratio for on an asset level, and then on an account level, And that funnel then captures more users and grows your audience over time. And ultimately that leads to greater volume of conversions at bottom of funnel. So that's kind of a flow through of how the right approach to third party asset production can lead to the outcome that we all want, which is greater spend, greater conversion at your target CAC. How do we know if it's working? And this is how do we measure this activity, I guess. We want to be benchmarking cost per unique cost per 1,000 accounts reached, which we look at as a bit of a proxy for incremental reach, CPM times frequency. Obviously, we want to be pulling our incremental reach reports if you can get them from your rep. If not, we can really help with that. We want to be keeping an eye on net new visitor percentage on both an asset, campaign, and ad account level. I think if you are approaching creative diversity and then as a part of that third party whitelisting and creative production in the right way, we should be seeing new visitor percentage and cost per 1,000 account reach either stay stable or improve over time, depending on your starting point. You can also do a qualitative review of audience. So look at the audience for your third party assets and ask yourself, like, does it look different to that of the rest of my ecosystem? If you're seeing CPA look strong and audience delivery look quite different, that is a good thing. That is a signal that we're reaching new people. Maybe that's a different age group, maybe that's a different gender, or a function of the two of those. So yeah, you want to be reviewing assets and specific relationships on an audience level. If you're doing this right on an asset level, we should then see overall account level incremental reach, frequency, and CPM improve. And ultimately, we should be able to increase spend, a stable or decreasing CAC, depending on the volume of spend you're at currently. And yeah, I think it's really important to review CAC versus CPA on an identity level. Some of these assets and some of these third-party relations can prove to be more incremental than others, and that needs to be factored into your attribution and your targets, not just at a campaign or ad set level, but also on a creator level, and can impact your negotiation of fees, etc. So yeah, just wanted to wrap up with some final next steps, just to give you some like 5 tangible action points to take away and implement into your brand. So firstly, I would recommend looking internally first. Right? Are there any quick wins you can leverage? Can we take the founder, the team, or pages you can create yourself for little or no cost, and just inject those into the ad account with the right identity and creative match? Secondly is like identify 3 of your creators, whether that's already running in the account or relationships that you've got, and establish the relationship to run the partnership ads, or look at how you can create an ad or angle that really aligns with them as an individual to increase that resonance. I would look at keyword research on PPC to look at any look for any third party identity opportunities. And that can provide both advertorial and meta opportunities. Test and learn. So this is an evolving process. You may not hit it out of the park on the first try. It's something that you'll need to, like your general creative process, test, learn, and iterate on, and take learnings on, and drive feedback across that process over time. And then finally, as I mentioned previously, the work doesn't stop when you found a winning asset. Like, look at how you can create post-click experiences around those top performing identities as a next step. That will increase conversion rates, which will provide better signals to Meta to give you greater match rates and better performance in the future. So yeah, thank you for sticking with me for the last 45 minutes. Hope that was useful. Hope this gives you some really tangible steps of how you can get started with third-party delivery in order to drive performance now and in the future for your brand. Please, if you enjoyed this, do like and subscribe. We'll be coming out. We'll be bringing more of these educational style formats to the channel. And yeah, thank you very much for listening. Hope you have a great rest of the day.